Well, thank you so much for meeting with us. I would love if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you teach? What's your background? We'd love to know more about you.
My name is Jessica Steffy. I am going into my 19th year of teaching. I will be teaching eighth grade for the first time again after probably 10 years. I taught juniors and seniors last year, but I come from the background of really working with the squirrely children and the ones who need a teacher to really connect with them. And I really feel that I can make more of an impact in a junior high setting. So I will be teaching eighth grade ELA for the first time in a really long time.
How have you used Diffit in your classroom? And also thinking about like the year ahead, how do you plan to use Diffit in this upcoming year with this particular group of students?
So last year, I was really lucky. I had a group of seniors. Half of them had IEPs and the other half were ESL students. And they were ESL students who were low enough that they should have still been in an ESL classroom, but we all know that the most growth happens in a more mainstream classroom. So I was fortunate to be able to work with them. I was trusted enough to work with them. We did the novel Animal Farm, and I wanted them to have the background information of what herd mentality looks like. I used Diffit to find a really good article on herd mentality and then feed it through Diffit, get it on an eighth grade reading level, which was a comfort yet a bit of a challenge for most of my students. I wanted them to be able to access the information. It wasn't like a literacy practice per se. So I wanted them to be able to use it without the stressors. They could apply it to the novel, which is where the challenges would actually be. This year coming up, having eighth graders, I'm going to use it a lot, obviously, for differentiation. We're going to be getting a program and I'll be using it for the first time. So it's going to be whenever I'm looking at material that I know is just not going to be accessible for my whole class. I'm going to be able to feed that in. And I think going to the eighth grade level with Diffit, it's not just for the students who need the support of remediation, but also acceleration. The fact that I could take things and put it on their level because having been in education for as long as I have, we tend to just focus on the middle and the lower kids. And we are just like, well, the kids who are advanced, good for them. They're where they need to be. They're not going to struggle, but we miss growing their potential.
Thank you so much for sharing those examples. I do find we have a lot of teachers who are using Diffit to truly reach all students, including that example of acceleration and those students that we want every student engaging in productive struggle. And that's a
Mhm.
really hard challenge to overcome. So thank you so much for sharing that. What's your favorite thing about Diffit? Is a particular feature, a particular activity? Is there just like one thing that you're like, this is it? This is my favorite thing?
I have a tendency to use Google Docs a lot, and I like to do the double-sided kind of setup where I have the text on one side and I can put the questions on the other side. With Diffit, because it has the ability to summarize, it has the ability to pull out vocabulary, I embed that into my Google Docs for extra support. I also really like where I can take the longer answer questions that are at the bottom and add cite evidence from the text, and I make that into a depth of knowledge 3, and I can use that and repeat those kind of concepts because one of the things that I found with students, and this was pre-pandemic, but just really amplified by post-pandemic, they're so paralyzed when it comes to writing. They want to just make it quick and easy and painless. And I feel like the more you can get them to write, the more confidence they build, the easier it is for them to be able to do that. So having them write every single day is something that's hugely important and getting them comfortable with those bigger concepts. So I like all the pieces that come out of Diffit and then the ability to be able to modify them further to meet the needs of my students.
Thank you so much for sharing that example. Our last question, what's been the biggest benefit for you using Diffit this past year?
The biggest benefit for using Diffit is really when you're looking at a classroom of 25 to 30 students to really be able to get them as close to individualized content as possible because we are always looking for that sweet spot of challenge without frustration and to be able to really hone in on where they're at and where they are at and where they can go, and being able to tailor make that for the individual students. I know when I first started teaching, that was always the goal with differentiation, and it was a matter of resources and time and skill, and to have Diffit be able to quickly put all of those adaptations at your fingertips is just hugely beneficial for our students.
Jessica, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your expertise. And I just can't wait to hear how this next year goes.